Well, I kind of just did 10 minutes on a whole bunch of it, but I suppose in this era, with the World Health Organization about to destroy nationhood
Hmm.
by creating a fascist control over everyone's health, uh, which really is already here
Yeah.
if you look at the signs. Um, the health of the American has diminished so greatly in the last 50 years. And and even if you're not a statistician or a scientist with credentials, you can look at that and start putting the pieces together if you're willing to look around and figure out how health has been, we've been
Oh,
robbed of our health, and we've been left with a so-called health system that is based on illness,
exactly.
and is the only remedies will be either surgery or chemicals.
Welcome to Fire Out with Faust, everybody. I am Faust Chicho, and today I'm honored and excited to be joined by Elana Freeland. Let me tell you about Elana and what she has been up to in case you have not heard of her. She's a writer, a ghostwriter, a lecturer, a storyteller, and a teacher. She researches and writes on deep state issues, including stories of survivors of MK Ultra, ritual abuse, and invasive electromagnetic weapons. She's now perhaps best known for her book, the one that I'm almost through, Chemtrails, HARP, and the Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth. They already published Under an Ionized Sky, from Chemtrails to Space Fence Lockdown. And that's about the resurrection of the SDI, the Strategic Defense Initiative, which was under Reagan, right, Alana? That's when that first
Yep,
came
yeah,
about.
Reagan, more importantly, George H.W. Bush and Big
Mm,
Dick Cheney,
the devil himself, George
the
H.W.
devil himself, yes.
And she's just concluding, and as we were speaking before, rewriting her third book of that trilogy, which is, I believe, still called Synthetic Biology and
No,
Transhumanism.
no,
No, it's not
it's
still called that. Stand
the
by for the
third.
title.
I'll get you a new version. The third book was finished in October 2021, and it's got a long title, but it tells you exactly what I cover. It's geoengineered transhumanism, how the environment has been weaponized by chemicals, electromagnetism, and nanotechnology for
Mm,
synthetic biology.
wow,
That's why
that
it's
does.
650 pages, and why I'm rewriting it as two books for inner traditions.
Wow. Wow. I can't wait. I can't wait to read it. Alana's undergraduate degree was in creative writing and biology, and she has a master of arts from St. John's College, which specializes in historiography. So, thank you so much for beaming in, Alana. I'm so excited to have you on the show. This is a topic that a lot of people just are in complete denial about. Other people have come around, but it's a topic that easily gets you for some reason, after everything that has gone on, you'd think that there wouldn't be much that can get you dismissed as, you know, a quote conspiracy theorist or a crazy or a kook. But for some reason, you talk about this and people are like, oh, they just can't imagine it. And I'm like, have you looked up at all in the last 10 years?
Well,
Have
and
you?
also the cover stories are so effective. The two cover
Yes.
stories, global warming and climate change, those are just sheer cover stories. They have nothing to do with carbons, they have nothing to do with the rhetoric that they throw out to people. So it kind of just makes it all geoengineering just go away into solar radiation management. That's those jets up there that are helping us out and helping us survive climate change. It's all a setup. And because there are so few people I mean, we've had people die in this anti-geoengineering movement, and nobody ever hears about it.
Yeah.
We have had amazing activists who have been hit so hard with electromagnetic weapons that they bow out of the movement. So, we have suffered over the years, and this is about 20 years of struggle. And now there's a little bit here and there, but not much. And I'm just putting this out for the future, really. I'm
Yeah.
putting it out for people in 25 to 50 years who go, why wasn't anyone talking about this? This is
Yeah.
huge. And then they're going to find my little old books back here where I try to give the public a sense of how large this is and how classified it is. So it's not just another issue. This is the biggest elephant in the living room, and I'm just kind of flying solo here. Other than a few really good guys, one of whom just recently died, Mike Morales, who was our excellent weatherman for pointing out geoengineered weather, where these weather events are completely contrived and created by chemicals, electromagnetics, and nanotechnology. So it's here in spades, but
Hmm.
look at how we're just being catapulted with one issue after another. So
Yeah.
people can hardly breathe, much less keep up on how large this picture is.
It's it is they're very good. It's like the snake eating its own tail. They're very good at setting up a situation so that they have what's the word they used in the Kennedy assassination? Plausible in uh,
Deniability.
deniability. And
Yeah.
they're really good at that, and they're also very good at setting up something that even if you catch them, like you have these fires going on right now, and so we see the planes spraying fire. And of course, they just turn around and say those planes are attempting to control the fire by controlling the burn. So that, I mean, it's an out. It's a perfect out. We'll never know if they're controlling the fire or making the fire. We have no way of knowing. It's a perfect way for them to say, and it's the same thing with these chemtrails and what they say they're spraying for, you
Yeah.
know, um, and what many of us believe they're spraying for. Many of us know the agenda. Many of us know their desired outcome, and we know they're not spraying because they care about our health. But there are those out there who are extremely naive, who have been conditioned by the state to believe this nonsense that Big Brother is looking out for us instead of just looking at us.
Instead of
Oh.
tracking and tracing and targeting us. Yeah, I think also the control of the media. I mean, I watched it happen in 1973, to be exact. That's when the CIA took over all major media in the United States, and that includes the networks. So, you just don't really have a chance when
Yeah.
the media is lying and are receiving their direct orders all the time. It's actually remarkable that they, I guess the reason that they feed us so much distraction and so many sort of true and lots of spin and lies kind of, newscasting. That's really an
Mm-hmm.
interesting phrase, isn't it? Newscasting, like
Mm-hmm.
spell casting.
Yeah.
And that's really how it is in the land of the Bill of Rights, amazingly so. So the naivete of the American, particularly, I find I have a lot of Europeans who follow me and are much more savvy than the
Mm-hmm.
average American. Americans are just wonderful doers, uh, wonderful people, really,
Mm-hmm.
but not wise and
Yeah.
not at all good at thinking. They're doers. They're not thinkers, and they can't get their heads,
Yeah.
kind of wrap their brain around the fact that the authority figures are the ones who are lying, and
Yeah.
that puts us in a real vice grip. But I'm a student of Rudolf Steiner, and he makes it very clear that this era that we're living through now. is an era in which we must divest ourselves of our faith in leaders and authority figures, and we must take on this task ourselves by really becoming very conscious, very discerning of the difference between like a lie and a half truth. We have a lot of catching up to do,
Yeah.
especially in an era in which we have all these electronic toys that lead us 6 ways to Sunday to semi-truths and fantasies, and we just don't know the difference anymore. So that's why it's important that we now really sort of concentrate on just an area of life. No matter what you choose, you can't really just be the passive, childlike
Oh my God.
American who assumes that all the technology coming out is good and that your choices are good and that it's somebody else's fault that everything's turning bad outside. And that's the challenge. And I'm just adding another piece of the puzzle that is very assiduously avoided in
Yeah.
the news accounts. I mean, how often do you hear the word geoengineering? You don't hear the word chemtrails anymore because
No,
everybody learned to laugh
not a
at
lot.
that as a conspiracy theory, which is the CIA's way of dismissing things. So, it takes a while to realize that there's shadows moving behind things that are happening and that you really should be concentrating on the shadow, not
Yeah.
really the thing that you're being
That's
told
right.
about.
Never the thing they're pointing at. That is
No,
the ultimate distraction. They're
that's
always
right.
pointing at something, and it's always to keep your eyes from something else. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. You cannot have. I mean, you condition and entrain a population not to think critically, and they become very good worker bees and not very creative or critical thinkers. And that's the sad truth that has happened in our country. And I'm a fan of William Cooper. I don't know. Some people love him. Some people have other opinions of him. He was a civilian. He
Well,
was in
I
the
know who
Navy.
Bill Cooper was.
Yeah, of
Yeah,
course you do. He was
yeah.
one of the first people sounding the alarm about this. And of course, Clinton named him the enemy of the state with his radio show because he was fearless. I mean, he knew they were coming for him eventually, but he talked a lot about this. And he was in intelligence for 8 years, I think, when he was in the Navy. And he was trying to warn people way back when. But he always said, as a nation, we've become complacent. We have truly become, they've got us into a point where it's up in the air whether we're gonna be able to take the reins back, and save ourselves from these few people who have taken the most powerful positions on the planet. And that's the sad truth. I I don't know. I don't know. God willing, we get it together in time to save ourselves. But sometimes I wonder if the will to do that is there. Um,
Well,
but
I could respond to that because I do think it's if you're thinking of a particular path, I think it's too late uh, of a path back into anything we used to have.
mm,
That's over. But a path through the flames and the destruction that's going on now, we have yet to imagine our way through. And I say that very advisedly to people because that's one of I've never owned a TV, Faust, never owned
wow,
one. I never owned an iPhone, never will. These are
wow,
weapon systems. And the biggest weapon system I own is this little computer that I'm talking to you on. Uh, I have to have that for my writing career, but
hmm
uh, I think one of the things missing in Americans now, and I'm pretty old, I'll be 76 this month. I've lived a
wow,
long time. I'm a 60s person. I was in the 60s generation. I always reported for newspapers and college papers through all of the turmoil of the 60s and
mm,
70s. And so I've seen a lot. And what I notice is that TV has really stolen our ability to make imaginations. And when I say imagination, I don't mean fantasies where you can amuse yourself. I don't mean self-entertainment. I mean the ability to make mental pictures of concepts and, in our case, national security issues that were never told about in the newspapers or news shows. We can make pictures of those by getting enough data, enough information that we've read, and enough stories that we've read through to get a sense of what the government is doing, because we have been under a national security state since the year I was born. I was born in 1947. So we can't just wait for the experts to tell us, for the papers to come before us with the truth. That's not going to happen. So now it gets serious, and
Yeah.
most people are just looking for a tail to follow. Which sheep should I
Or a
follow
savior. Yeah. Or a
in order
savior.
to get out of this where I know things are happening around me, but I feel so helpless because I can't see the truth. And to make it clear what is true, yeah, you can get facts and you can get a lot of statistics, but you know as well as I that you can use facts and statistics to
Oh
sell
yeah.
anything. So that's not going to lead you to truth, even though your school, the school you went to through high school, maybe even through college, has
Yeah.
told you that it's in the textbook. So that's the truth. And
Right.
that is just simply a lie. That's not true. So you have to search out the truth. And that's kind of why people like me are so rare. Is I don't do it for a career, because if I were into writing for a career, I would have to obey the people that paid
That's
me
right.
for the things I'm writing. No, I'm a freelance writer, and I then can go and do a lot of research, and I can put myself in there as long as I let the reader know that I'm in there. I can do footnotes. I can do whatever I want in making the book tell the truth,
Yeah.
and then that that reader then, if people read, which of course we don't anymore, that reader could then go to other books and compare contrast. The problem now with the geoengineering is really there are no books. There are very few. There are a few that are excellent, really excellent, and that preceded me. And now we've got about, I'd say, 6 books, maybe. That's
Yeah.
that's about it.
That's
That you
unbelievable.
can read with confidence that you're getting the best of the what this particular writer thinks is true. And
Mhm.
so, how do we make those discernments without following somebody? That's kind of what we're facing, and it's very hard to do. I have a lot of compassion for people, but they ain't going to do it if they've got their head down in their iPhone and they've got their TV on it for the 6 o'clock news. They are
No,
not going to find the truth through
that's
these
for sure.
items. This is our control network.
That's right.
And I advise everyone to get rid of those two things, the television and the iPhone. I mean, I'm serious. I am not kidding. The iPhone, if you want to go there, I could tell you how it works as a weapon without you even knowing that it's working to control your thoughts. And the TV is the same. All the HDs and the flat screens and all that, they all have the microphone. They all have
Mhm.
the filming going on of you in your living room, in your bedroom, wherever it is. So, you are being programmed by these items. And until you break your programming, as any good MK Ultra survivor knows, you don't have a prayer in hell to find out what is truly going on. And
I think you can extrapolate that into a much broader demographic than MK because in a sense the trauma and the programming is so vast in this country that we need people to break the programming period if they're going to discern the truth, and they're not going to do it like just like you said, watching the news and playing on their iPhones. That's for damn sure. So
But even to own them, I mean, they both seem to, this is me, seem to have addictive elements um, constructed into them. It isn't just you're weak and, you don't want to watch pornography, but you know when the show is on late at night. You know when
Right.
it's on the iPhone. It's as though it's saying, come hither, come hither. And, at the same time, you go on your computer and you're going to get flashy babes or
Yeah.
even
Like
pedophile
kids. Yeah.
children who are saying, come hither, come hither. I mean, it's built into the technology. It isn't just a matter of our will anymore. And
Yeah.
that's why the first thing I say to people who want to survive what is going on now, this full assault that has now gone into the jab, but
Mm-hmm.
began, in my opinion, with the electromagnetic toys
Mm-hmm.
of the CIA and MK Ultra. It all began with MK Ultra because that's where
Mm-hmm.
the paperclip Nazis were brought over
That's right.
and helped us contrive that whole program. So, if you want to get out of this whole system that you're now plugged into, it's going to be a real effort, and it's hard for people to break bad habits.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's the
If you've
hardest thing.
ever been addicted to something that's is not good for you, but
Oh yeah.
you've put it in the good department, it's very hard. But that's exactly what we need to do: is look at our technology and make some hard
Yeah.
decisions for ourselves, just ourselves, before we go out and try to let other people know what we've discovered about how this all works. I mean, I really do have compassion. So I keep talking and talking and talking and writing and writing and writing. And, it's like, do I think I'm changing a lot? Well, not really, but I think I'm changing some individuals.
Yeah.
Some individuals are definitely giving up their cell phones, throwing it away, in fact, and
Yeah.
finding that they're having their own thoughts for the first time in years, and feeling so refreshed
I
and
bet.
so free. I mean, this is MK Ultra on steroids. All
Yeah.
this stuff.
Yeah.
MK Ultra has fed into everything. I think you're right. I think everyone's programmed pretty much, and I have to watch my p's and q's too. It's not that I'm just evolved or something. It's that I have made very good decisions regarding my relationship with technology. Like
Mm-hmm.
I drive an old car. It's a 2001 Honda. When I pull up to a traffic light, sometimes the traffic light doesn't even know I'm there. That's how
uh,
few computers I have in the
uh,
car. But you buy a new car and you're going to be fried. Has everybody put that together? You're going to be fried constantly by driving that car.
no, I don't think people have put that together at all.
Yeah.
Let's circle back to that. What I want to do now, before we go any further is, if you had, we live in a world where, and I'm well aware of how, quote, facts and statistics and evidence is simply prostituted. It's bought, it's sold, it's dressed up, it's everything. But, you know, these days we have, quote, I'm sure you've caught wind of this talking to people. We have fact checkers on the internet now, which of
Funny,
course
funny.
many of us, know when something is coming far too close to the truth. That's when the fact checkers are going to go ahead and put a label on it. So, in a sense, they give themselves away by doing it. But, if you had, uh, 5 minutes to speak to, the people in America today, what evidence would you point them to lay out this case in a simple way, if you could do it in 5 minutes or 10 minutes, what's the strongest, kind of most irrefutable piece of evidence that you would give to them and say, just take a good look at that, if you want to begin to understand the nature of this problem.
Well, I kind of just did 10 minutes on a whole bunch of it, but I suppose in this era, with the World Health Organization about to destroy nationhood
Mm-hmm.
by creating a fascist control over everyone's health, uh, which really is already here
Yeah.
if you look at the signs. Um, the health of the American has diminished so greatly in the last 50 years. And and even if you're not a statistician or a scientist with credentials, you can look at that and start putting the pieces together if you're willing to look around and figure out how health has been, we've been
Oh,
robbed of our health, and we've been left with a so-called health system that is based on illness,
absolutely.
and is the only remedies will be either surgery or chemicals.
Hmm.
So now they're adding another piece that is still invisible to the public, and that's what I write about in the third book, Geoengineered Transhumanism, under the topic of the smart hospital. If you go into a hospital that has all the fancy machinery of technological medicine, uh, it's not a safe place to be anymore.
Mm.
It's like a well, it's kind of a lot like a prison where you are watched all the time. There are cameras everywhere. The staff are trained in a particular way to keep their eyes
Right.
on you. There are doctors trained by the American Medical Association schools, which
Rockefeller.
are completely overpriced and very very controlling
Oh,
of
yeah.
what a doctor is allowed to.
It's indoctrination. Literally, it's a total indoctrination. I have nothing against doctors.
Indoctrination. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
indoctrination. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So,
And
so it would be the health
yeah, I
that I
mean,
would say.
I just did a video speaking about how we have the most money spent on healthcare in the whole world. We
Yeah.
are number one, and our life expectancy is 62nd in the world of all nations. That is staggering. That is ridiculous. You know, people think it's because, oh well, we don't eat right. And look, I'm not saying that we eat right, but I'm saying we need to look at everything because things are not getting better with
That's
our
right.
technology. They're getting much, much worse. We have new allergies, new cancers, and new neurological defects that
Right.
we never even thought possible. Things that did exist are coming on stronger and faster. There is a complete collapse of health
Yeah.
in American society more than most countries. And so I always say, like, we have to look at what has changed. If you're studying a population of dolphins, and all of a sudden over the last 20 years they start dying off, you don't, I mean, you could examine the individual dolphins, but the first thing you're going to do is look what's in the water.
Hmm.
Look what has changed, what has been introduced into
That's
the
right.
water that wasn't there before. If the population was fine before that, I mean, that's common sense, but people aren't trained to think like that. They're not taught to think like that. They're going to, they're probably going to examine the dolphins. And I'm just like, where has common sense gone? We need to be looking what's in the air, what's in the food, and
Hmm.
what's in the damn medical interventions that they are insisting we give our newborn babies and so on, because
That's right.
most people don't know, and I'm sad. It's sad to say that most doctors don't even know, and that's dangerous and scary. And but what I want to return to, speaking specifically of chemtrails, and I know the onslaught is very, very vast, and it covers a wide array of things, but you know I know that you are very knowledgeable about, you know, what they're doing it under the guise of. And
Hmm.
I know you're very well read on it. And I'm going to pick your brain for some of the books besides your own that have helped you come into your knowledge. But people who are very, very new to this and who are starting to really because of the events of the last 3 years, realized that, wait a minute, this is probably going on. They've been lying about so much, and they're just starting to realize that these things may be real. What can you what's some hard evidence you can point to, like as far as testing that has come back, where what you read and where that people can look and kind of be able to say, okay, what is up with that? That is that's an anomaly that can't be explained by whatever the BS they're selling is.
Well, early in my studies, I've been 13 years in this anti-geoengineering movement, and it's a matter of putting certain pieces together, because right now, if you ask people who know what the word geoengineering even means, which truthfully I've asked some very knowledgeable people what they think about the geoengineering, and they don't even know the word. That's scary, because these are public figures that I've met at conferences. So early on, it was hearsay, and it was the man in the street standing below and seeing that the contrails, which he was familiar with, which is basically a 30-second at the most short spurt of water vapor and particulates. And that will go out behind the jet and last about at most 30 seconds, and then it will dissipate and become part of the rest of the water vapor in the atmosphere. That's the old atmosphere. And that's the old way of looking at planes or jets, really. But gradually, people like Clifford Carnicom, the independent scientist I worked with for years, Clifford was at one time from the late 90s through the early 2000s, he was really the only scientist looking up and making measurements. He didn't have a big budget. He didn't work for, one of the big corporations or a big government. And he would do his own collections of condensation, dust from HEPA filters.
What was he finding?
Well, he was able to measure all of the stuff there would be before the trail had gone over northern New Mexico. And then there would be after the trail had gone over New Mexico. And then when the trails began to increase, as he was noticing they were increasing, because that's the program I expose, is what's known as Project Cloverleaf. That's only one of the many geoengineered programs that has... you can watch it. What I'm trying to get at is you can watch it from the Earth. You don't need to be up there behind the jet taking samples in order to know that something has changed drastically. He could look at the signatures, because he was trained as a chemist, so he could look at the signatures coming out the backs of the jets and know, well, number one, it's not a contrail, simply because of the length of it and the dissipation, the rapid dissipation. But no, then later he was noticing these very unique signatures, which indicated chemicals were in all of them, what was coming out the backs of the jets. And that's a key moment, because that's exactly the moment when he got very alarmed and began to measure not just the condensation left by the jets overhead, but the atmospheric pressure and the composition of the atmosphere itself. And it was relatively early on, after maybe 4 years of this sort of collection of data going on, that he realized that the atmosphere was being changed. And it was not being changed. It did not appear to be being changed as a sidebar to military programs. Because a lot of these jets that were going overhead, some were military, definitely military, but most were commercial jets, and they were spewing out the back. And then it began to be not just out the back the engine. It was
the wings,
from the wings, and that would be 2 spigots per wing. And then pretty soon there were also 4 spigots around the engine compartment uh,
Mm-hmm.
pipe. So, you know, it eventually seemed obvious to him, and his papers can be read at carnicominstitute.org. He has all his papers up, there are at least 150. And you can follow his documentation of a program that seemed intentional. It wasn't just that it was something the military was leaving for the citizens to undergo. It was intentional. He was finding barium, strontium, aluminum, chromium, uh, lithium, etc. You know, there were various quantities. The most was the aluminum. Well,
Mm-hmm.
aluminum we know from years, over a century of studying aluminum under microscopes and chemically, that it's very bad for human health.
It is
I
very
mean,
bad for human health. It's very bad
yeah,
neurologically. It's very bad. And where is it coming from? Let me say this, Alana, since you mentioned aluminum. I went to my dentist the other day, and she's holistic. And before I left there, I got chatting with one of the ladies, and because they're holistic and I'm holistic and I have a podcast, I was there much longer than I anticipated. But they said, "Would you like to test? We do a test, and we can test your blood for all your vitamins, any metals." And I said, "Sure, I'll do that while I'm here." And she was very impressed with some of my levels, and she said, "Oh, your aluminum is close to high." She said, "It's not." And I'm like, "Aluminum? I don't I don't have aluminum in my life. I don't drink out of aluminum cans. I don't eat out of aluminum foil. I don't There is no aluminum in my life for me to have near high levels of aluminum in my blood." And I thought that was very, very suspicious, And so she's telling me the different ways I can detox from it. But I'm wondering how I got it in me in the first place.
yeah.
You
It's from the chemical trails, and it's in a nano size, and a nanoparticle is 1 billionth of a meter. So you're not going to be able to see it with the naked eye.
Right.
But that was the second step to what Clifford had begun with the collection of data. Was that there were a few biologists in California. Uh, Rosalie, first of all, Rosalind Peterson, who was worked for the USDA, Department of Agriculture, and she too was finding that there was a lot of aluminum in the soil.
Yeah.
And Francis Mangels was another biologist in California, and they began to talk, and there began to be meetings of citizens who were examining the water and the soil, not particularly the air, but then the people who examine the air began to wake up. So this has been going on now for about 20 years. But how much have you heard about it in the press? Not much, because this is like the big secret. And again, at first, everybody, of course, thought, well, they just don't know how bad this is for human health. That's got to be the reason they're allowing this to happen. And then they began to, when they did FOIAs, they applied to get data from the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency,
Mm-hmm.
which is supposed to protect the citizenry.
Yeah.
Well, that didn't work out. The CDC, same thing, and we're experiencing the CDC now
Mm-hmm.
as being yet
Yeah.
another perpetrator. So they went through steps kind of similar, but maybe in a larger scope, because they were dealing with the fact that the environment was being used to really poison the populace.
Right.
And now it's a matter of the jab and the slow waking up process that people are going through, of realizing we're in yet another situation, the guinea pig situation,
Yeah.
that we've had many times. But this one, the geoengineering one, was the biggest one, because you're talking about delivery systems from jets
Yeah.
that are impacting not just the soil, the air, and the water, but we're breathing in on a nano scale all of the detritus that is coming down on us, and it's being purposely sent down to us. Aluminum, we've had aluminum in vaccinations for babies
I know, for a long
for
time.
almost a century now.
Yeah.
So what's going on with that? Is it that they don't know? Well, that's ridiculous. They know. They know. So, it was those were the first two phases. Then the establishment, this is how I've put it together. Then the establishment sort of woke up, oh, they're beginning to see. So let's trot out our PhDs in order to quell this uprising of people's intelligence as to what's going on. And they brought out David Keith, who's one of Bill Gates' boys that he keeps in his back pocket. And David Keith is a geoengineer, and he said a lot of stuff at UN meetings and various gatherings, conferences, and then people began to write papers. The PhDs who were into environmental and geoengineering types of degrees, and you saw the beginning of the movement to really quell it and blame.
I saw there was 77 of the world's 76 allegedly of the world's 77 leading climate scientists claimed they were not real and quote debunked chemtrails. And I'm like, that's funny. Like, we're going to believe anyone who the government is putting forward.
But people did.
I know. Well, that goes back to what we first talked about, the lack of critical thought and discernment and intuition, which, I mean, how easy is it for them to release a report like that? I mean, it's quite simple. We've seen it over and over again, isn't it?
Well, and another part of this is, just to be fair, some of our members tried to get the formula for the jet fuel, because there was an argument among the people following these chemtrails as to whether it was coming from the engine compartment. Was it just from the jet fuel, the JP8 at that time, or JP4 and JP8, or was it a supplementary system that was adding things to what was coming out of the rear? And so that was a shock when we realized that it was classified, the fuel of the jets, commercial and military, is classified. And you cannot get the formulas for these things.
Wow.
Then we knew we were into, military control over the geoengineering programs. We understood that. Then, and the way this was going, just get an aerial perspective on this. This is entirely an internet resistance movement, you might call it, of observing what's going on to figure out what isn't going on, i.e., it's just sort of accidental how all this stuff comes out of these jets because the military this and the commercial jets that. There's a lot of commercial jets. To realize that was not the only thing at play here. So the people doing that are just people. I mean, this is a real groundswell movement. None of us have, we have one PhD in our resistance movement, and that's Mr. Marvin Herndon. And Marvin Herndon had extreme trouble in getting his papers published because the terrible peer review system, which has been complicit for years, would refuse to have his papers published. He now is self-publishing his own books, for example. And otherwise, most were just people. One of my favorite cloud watchers, I call them, is out in Wyoming, a very freelance kind of desert man
Mm-hmm.
who does a great job of photographing and commenting on the various delivery of the clouds, because these are not real clouds. I mean, that took a few years too. Wait
Yeah.
a minute, those are not moisture and particulates up there. What is that? It's plasma. These are
Mm.
all plasma clouds, and
Wow.
they're created by electromagnetics and gases.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they can be moved, and then sometimes you'll see something amazing, like you feel like you're losing your mind, where you see a cloud stays in the same place for hours in the sky,
Mm.
never moves. I mean, how can that be?
Yeah.
There are breezes blowing through, and other clouds are moving, but
Especially
that cloud is not moving.
if
You
you've
see
ever
what I
taken a
mean?
yeah, take a hot
So
air balloon up, and then you begin to understand that not only is everything always moving in with air and wind and motion, but also as you get into different altitudes,
yeah,
your everything changes. The barometric pressure changes. Certain winds are known to be stronger in certain places.
that's right.
It's just there's a lot of unnatural things that if people were a little more educated about the way things are supposed to work, then they might start to notice the inconsistencies more. Um, yeah,
And part of it is they're waiting. They feel that if it were important,
yeah,
they would be told,
yeah,
and that's a very wrong way of thinking of this. It's more like
yeah,
if it's important, you won't be told. There'll be
yeah.
a deafening silence around that particular
That's right.
aspect. So what it requires is people who really spend the time to watch. Now that cuts out all the busy people, all the people paying their
Hmm.
mortgages and they're at full time
Working,
jobs and they
yeah,
got the kids at home, and that's they're not going to do this. So then you have the city problem where you have other pollutants that are
yeah.
going up, and so people are not accustomed to
There's your
paying
majority right
attention.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. So you see the problem. I mean, in a way, I can imagine how thrilled the elite, that's who I blame anyway, I use that
Mm.
sort of
Oh, I'm with
umbrella
you.
term, that were when they realized that, yeah, we're going to take over the environment first, and then we'll create the transhuman race
Hmm.
in with after we've readied the human population by taking away their health, making
Hmm.
them breathe in things that are bad for them, make the medical and the pharmaceutical industries very wealthy, who can
Hmm.
then control all those people that are coming because they have health problems, and create tremendous watch lists, collect masses of data for our supercomputers to continue to develop. I can imagine how thrilled they were that, yeah, they would use the terrain theory in order to take over the environment first and then funnel in a lot of elements that a natural human being simply cannot hold their health beside, not to mention their mentation, not to mention being able to think and
Right.
have common sense, etc. So that's how I see it. And, a lot of people think that I'm paranoid because I'm blaming the elite. Well, they're the ones with the money,
Why?
they're the ones with the
It's
technology.
their agenda. It's
Yeah, yeah,
Who else would we blame? I mean, sure, it's compartmentalized, and most people who are actually, and this is how they get away with it so well. Well, this is very hard for people to understand. Most people who are, what's the word, perpetrating the crime, who are driving the planes, who are spraying the gas, are not aware of what they're doing. They're told they're doing something else, and like lemmings, they go ahead and do.
yeah.
But and the people who have realized what they are doing, and the very few people who have stopped and said, I realized this is what I was spraying, or this is what I was piloting this plane for so long, they told me I was spraying pesticide, and it turned I realize now, those people are silenced, and they're made to be discredited, and you don't hear about them. They're not given a microphone to talk about what they realized on mainstream, and there's very few of them. So, um,
And
you know,
then go to the, let's take another level of it. Go to the conferences in 2015. There was a UN conference, and there was a chemtrails carbons conference. And this is where everybody signed on the dotted line to pay X amount of money because of carbon sequestering, etc. Okay, so when I heard that, I was like, I couldn't believe my ears.
Hmm.
Carbons? They're saying carbons. We need carbons. We need carbons for life. And they're telling me that it's bad for your life. What is going on? I just, and meanwhile, I already knew they were destroying the trees with the, particularly with the aluminum. And they were trying to get rid of forests because I realized they wanted synthetic forests. So I was like, they're getting rid of the forests, which need carbon to produce oxygen. We're 16% lower on the entire planet of the oxygen that we used to have. And now they're telling us that we all need to pay money to have them sequester the carbons and take them out of it. I was like, this is crazy. This is crazy. It made no sense. Made no sense. And that's what they've done. And it's still going on.
Oh yeah.
That's a lot of educated PhDs who are buying that crap. I mean, it just shows you what education has become.
Oh, people have no idea. I mean, the education system is part and parcel of this weaponization. You know, I mean, there's a reason why the people with PhDs and doctorates were some of the most outspoken and first people to jump along the, let's just call it the mRNA train. You know, of course. I mean, I lived in New York City, so I heard it from all the intelligentsia of New York City.
People.
You know, there's just they just know so much.
Yeah, much more.
And so little, you know, and they're like, you're not a scientist. I'm like, no, but I can talk to the earth, and you can't apparently because you have no idea what you're you're regurgitating what they're telling you, and I'm telling you they don't have your best interests at heart.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, Ivy League. I'm like, give me a break. These people are pathological liars. They don't even know to lie for them is to breathe. But you know, the weaponization, and I know that you talk a little bit about this. You know, allegedly there's a CIA chemtrails handbook, and I'm wondering if you could tell our audience a little bit about.
Well, you might be thinking of. I'm not sure what you're referring to, but the one that comes to mind when you said that is people don't know that the word chemtrails actually comes from the U.S. Air Force, which used the word chemtrails on their Chemistry 101 manual at the U.S. Air Force Academy. And that's where the term came from. And the CIA pulled that term and turned it into a malapropism to dump on people like tinfoil hats, like conspiracy theorists, etc. So, I always let people know that the word chemtrails, if you wonder where that came from, it came from the U.S. Air Force. It was their term.
Wow, I didn't realize that. Wow.
Yeah.
That's telling. You also talk about the concept of the space fence in your book and how it's being used to neurologically herd humanity. Can you break down, what that process is like for our listeners so that they can begin to contemplate potential ways to protect themselves from this?
Well, the term space fence is from Lockheed Martin, and Lockheed Martin is the number one weapons so-called defense contractor, but really a weapons contractor for the U.S. military. And Lockheed Martin owns all the patents for the space fence. Now, the space fence, we had it as a simple radar installation sort of necklace across the southern Midwest United States, all the way from coast to coast. We had that, and it was supposedly a missile defense program. What it really was doing was hitting radar up, various ways of testing out the control that we had at that time over the ionosphere. Now, we didn't really have control over the ionosphere, total control, until 2013, and that was done by HARP. HARP was the phased array antenna system, very important to understand what a phased array is. It's very different from the radial antenna system that sort of does this and broadcasts everywhere. It's where you can take a variety of smaller waves and combine them into one beam, one very powerful beam. And that's how HARP is really used, is through that. It's phased arrays. And it makes a beam. It's still operant. They told us that they warehoused it back in 2013, but that was not true. It's that the University of Alaska at Fairbanks took over the management of it. It's kind of like the LANL, the Los Alamos National Labs, was pretty much run by UC Berkeley for years and years. So it's kind of like that. Anyway, the HARP got complete control over the ionosphere. So when people ask me, how is HARP a weapon system? And probably the most impressive weapon system of the world, because it's scalar in dimension. And that's a very big topic. But, scalar is a good thing, but it has been turned into a weapon, much like many things that are good things. Yeah. A lot of things have been weaponized. So the scalar waves were able to puncture the ionosphere, which starts out, I believe, about 40 kilometers above us, and then continues up and is sort of contiguous with the magnetosphere. And the magnetosphere, which goes all the way up to 22,000 kilometers into space, that is pretty much subject to CERN. Okay, it's important to understand these massive weapon systems. And if you really were serious about recognizing what they look like when they're doing what they can do, because they're used for a lot of things, not just destruction. But when you saw 9/11, that was a scalar weapon. And my guess, it was HARP working with one or two other ionospheric heaters in the northern latitudes. And my guess would be Brookhaven National Labs and one in Norway. So this weapon system is not used very much because that 9/11 was very effective in informing the world of the scope of the weaponry that we had. And I believe it was primarily done for that, was to announce to the world that the United States of America had this weapon. That's my opinion. The book that I think everyone should own a copy of is Judy Wood, PhD, Where Did the Towers Go? And it's full color, probably at least 1,000 pictures in the pages, very nicely done. Not very good binding, I might add, but beautiful pictures, perfect pictures. And Judy is being a scientist. She explains a lot of things. She does not jump to conclusions. She's very thorough, and she has been marginalized and discredited because she's a PhD, and they wanted to get rid of her. So the idea that it was completely done by demolitions inside the towers is not true. However, I would say that there probably were demolition agents in the building to back it up.
I believe so. Yeah.
And so, when the firemen talk, and Judy's got some amazing pictures, amazing photographs of that whole thing. Very, very, very hard to watch, to look at. The firemen complained about wading through debris, dust, which was magnetic. And what happened is you saw what this weapon can do. It completely demolecularizes matter, and that would include bodies as well. So it's a very serious weapon, HARP is, because it has more power than a lot of other ionospheric heaters. But it will always use 2 to 3 other ionospheric heaters. This is called interferometry. And what it means is that these beams, you'll send one out from one unit, one ionosphere theater,
Mm-hmm.
another beam out, and then if you've got a holograph at all, like the jets that were used for 9/11, those are holograms. Then you'll have a third beam in order to give it a 3D appearance, and those can come from anywhere. So HARP is still extremely powerful, but it usually works with two or three others, and that would be for big storm systems, earthquakes, the tomography going under the earth to get those plates to move in a certain way.
Like what happened
Uh,
in Turkey,
yeah,
there was a lot of HARP's
very much
name
so.
was brought to the forefront. Some people who had, much more of a of an audience than they probably normally would mentioned HARP, and there was some allegations made that HARP was responsible, and people were like, "What's HARP?" um,
Yeah, the the high altitude auroral research project. I mean, I hardly ever talk about HARP now, whereas for years I was talking
yeah,
about pretty much nothing else. But then I wanted to bring in also regarding
the,
the HARP system, that can also be used for a very important thing. And the guy who talks about that is a Barry Trower. He's a wonderful British Navy microwave expert. And there are
okay.
many videos of Barry talking. He's getting very old. We're going to lose a real treasure when Barry goes. I really adore
Well,
him.
maybe I'll try to reach out to him and see if he wants to.
Yes, he would
Okay.
if you set everything up, because he refuses to have any electronic devices at all. He doesn't have a
Oh,
phone.
okay.
He doesn't have a computer. He knows what this technology does to us and how
Yeah.
it weakens us. So anyway, Barry has one video. You might be able to find it where he talks about the heart and its power because it's run through the ionosphere, because that's what I always say to people. The fact that we have a weapon which controls we control the ionosphere, that is a huge thing. And then there's CERN, and of course America has a very big investment in CERN, even though it's on the
Yeah.
border of
Oh,
Switzerland
yeah.
and France. So these are big weapons. This is what I always tease people with, that these are Atlantean weapons. These are
Mm-hmm.
powerful weapons that Atlantis ended in a huge world flood
That's
that
right.
every mythology of every culture in the
And
world has a myth about.
and
So,
people are learning about that flood now thanks to Graham Hancock's series. They're realizing that the flood was real. It
it
really
was
happened,
real,
and it came on really fast. And
really
they don't have
fast.
much of an explanation for it. But those of
Well,
us who have been studying
yeah,
certain what they would call myths, we have an explanation for it. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, no, it was technology. You're right. So the okay. So I talked about that, about the control over the ionosphere. The other
Space
thing that
time. Yeah.
explains the ability of the certainly the U.S. military and its geoengineers to control pretty much any weather system in the world, or to a very larger than you can believe degree, is that we control the jet stream as well. So we control the ionosphere and we control the jet stream. That means, yes, the jet stream makes it so that we can use weather as a weapon, which is what we do.
Hmm.
We heavy hand everyone in the world, every nation in the world, to behave in ways that we want. And yet now Russia and China have their own systems.
Oh, yeah.
At least, so this is inevitable. We would have ended up back in this historical hiccup of the Atlantean times,
Hmm.
when it was a very similar, in my opinion. This is all me, and that this is a very similar to what was going on then. So it looks like we're going to repeat history to some degree because it
That's
was
it.
not done properly, and that's the way it is. If you don't
That's
uh,
right.
deal with your history, you're doomed to repeat it.
Oh, I say
Um,
it all the time.
uh,
Yeah, I agree.
so I think I gave you a few tips on the weaponized version. Oh yes, this is what I wanted to finish with. Barry talks about Barry Trower talks about how HARP and its control over the ionosphere make it so that they can bounce frequencies off of the ionosphere from here. That's thousands and thousands of miles, and then like trigonometry, put it wherever they want on the face of the Earth, and then that could produce a catastrophe there. Um, Another thing it can do, according to Barry, is say they have a frequency for a disease that, like Ebola, and they wanted India to have an outbreak. They could easily broadcast through the phased array antenna beam up to the ionosphere, bounce it off the ionosphere, and bring the frequency down to wherever they want it, and boom, there we go.
Wow.
That's the other weapon part. Then the final one that I'll say is that HARP is able, through its various um, interferometry connections to all the space fence. This is all space fence stuff I'm telling you. Through all of these different towers and radar installations and NEXRADs and whatever, to broadcast a constant frequency. That would include the wind farms. That would include the fracking wells. A constant frequency for like your behavior,
Yeah.
for your fear quotient, for your confusion. All of these have a certain frequency, and that's a done deal, as says Barry. So
Wow.
you get the picture.
Yeah. And in your opinion, do you think that they're broadcasting all the time now? And how
Yes.
often do you think that they are? I mean, I know they're manipulating the weather on the daily to for
No, all of the weather is controlled. All of it.
you believe all of it's controlled.
All of it is controlled.
Wow.
I mean, it's one atmosphere. It's easy to see. One atmosphere, one ionosphere, one jet stream. What can I say?
Yeah. And so when Russia and China, start pressing their buttons, are they gonna and my other question is, if I know there's an unspoken agreement, there's a lot of unspoken treaties, agreements, there's secret space programs, there's a
With
lot
the
of things
elite. Yeah, with the elite.
with the elite, and then the politicians that are in their pocket, the few of them that have any knowledge, and there's very few of them. We have an Antarctic treaty, from 1959. I think it's been in effect. That is basically it's a 7-nation, space program that's been in effect and since the late 50s, and most people in government have no idea that
You
they're
mean the
not.
G7? Are you talking about the G7?
I'm talking about the I forgot what it's called. I was just reading about it. I think it's from 1959. Is the Antarctic treaty, and there's about 7 nation states.
Oh,
America,
okay.
is it?
Well, Antarctic would definitely be 7 because the property of the Antarctica itself has been divided among
There,
7 nations. Yeah.
then it's 7. Yeah,
But the secret space program entails all the northern latitude
yeah,
countries that run the southern latitude countries. That's the way it is here.
yeah. And I've been doing a lot of research and deep diving and trying to educate people about Antarctica, about what has been there, what has recently taken up residence there. I say recent, like last 100 years. What goes in and out of there very frequently, up and down and around, and people, what people should try and understand about how much has been hidden from them. But speaking of hidden, I know you got a chance to edit some real life stories from MK Ultra survivors. Now, I like you understand MK Ultra was a cornucopia of data for these sick people, and that they used what they learned, not just in MK Ultra, but Project Artichoke and all of its predecessors leading up to MK Ultra. MK Ultra being the kind of probably the most well known now.
149 subprojects. Yeah.
149.
Yeah.
And you got a chance to edit some of the real life stories from actual survivors, not people who are victims of what they have applied to countries and to nations to get the desired effect, but people who were the participants most of the time, unknowing and unwilling.
Slaves. They're slaves. Yeah.
Slaves, glorified slaves. And I
Yeah.
tell people all the time, I'm like, you don't understand what's going on underground in this country and around the world. You don't. Most people wouldn't have the stomach to begin to try to understand. But I've always wanted to have an opportunity to talk to someone who could speak to this. Can you share a little bit with our audience of what some of those accounts were like?
Well, that's a whole other show, because
Yeah, it is. I guess you're right.
I spent 10 years on MK Ultra, so
My
I know
God,
a lot about it. But I wanted to. There is a little anecdote I could tell you to give you an idea of the breadth of this program. Okay, so the guy who helped me write Under an Ionized Sky was named Billy Hayes, and Billy Hayes is called the Harp Man because he was the team leader of the guys who put together the phased array antenna acreage up in Gakona, Alaska. And Billy worked on possibly about 240 different military sites around the world in building these phased array antennas for the secret space program. All right, so Billy called me after I was on Coast to Coast and said, all these people are saying that listening to you sounds like me, and I'm here to tell you, you need to write another book, because there's something much more. There's much more going on in this, though you did a great job introducing people to it. So I started working with Billy Hayes, and over time, we worked together for about 3 years. I learned about his past, and he was MK Ultra.
wow.
And he was MK Ultra from the time he was 8 years old. His father was CIA. And of course, when you work for the CIA, you pretty much have to give the CIA permission to use your children as well. That's how dirty and dark the CIA is, and has always been. It was started by the Nazis that we brought over. Was not started just through the OSS from World War II. It was a Nazi program. It's still a Nazi program in my mind. Okay, so Billy helped me. Without him, I could not have understood all the technical aspects of the space fence and how it was constructed through Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, etc. And Billy and I got very close. He was extremely fond of me because, in a way, when you're raised MK Ultra, you never have real love. You never really. He had 4 or 5 wives, and I don't know how many children he had, but he had 48 grandchildren by the time he died.
Wow.
Not even 2 years ago now. I love Billy, and his MK Ultra background included. You named Behold the Pale Horse. Bill, what's his name?
Bill Cooper.
Okay, Bill Cooper was a friend of his. Ted Gunderson of the FBI, head of the FBI in LA, was a friend of his. Mike McCandlish, the wonderful artist who was draws all the Air Force pictures and that sort of thing. And then there are 2 more who I don't remember right now, but let me just say the punchline. These guys were raised on military bases. In Billy's case, it was mostly Eglin Air Force Base. But it was, they went to school with each other, and the schools were completely CIA. in that the CIA could come and take the children out in the middle of the day, take them to another room and program them, and then send them back to their room. Uh, they then went together to a high school, and they same thing there. So that's how it works, folks. That's what your tax dollars pay for, is to support the CIA's enslavement and torture of children. I mean, we go tisk tisk over all the children that are kidnapped and used in child trafficking.
Yeah.
And all the things that go on. I mean, there's not a day that goes by that I'm not thinking about that.
Yeah.
Because it bothers me. It really, really bothers me. So I will be writing a book on torture, on no-touch torture, and that's my next book after I finish the second edition of the synthetic biology book for this publishing company. So just to give you an idea of how enmeshed MK Ultra is, a lot of people think of it and think, "Oh yeah, that was way back then."
Yeah, it happened then.
That was not way back then. It's going on to this very day, and now you're about to be included in it because they've got the electromagnetic space fence that can pull you right into this. And pretty soon, people who don't have a firm grasp of who they are and what their consciousness is, the difference between their consciousness and the TV's consciousness, or between themselves and their neighbor, if they don't know what that is, they won't be able to tell what consciousness is running through their head pretty soon. You see how it works?
Yeah.
That's why we need to work on things that are not fun. They're not feel good. They're not, "Oh, Elana, you're so dark. You're so depressing." Well, this was left for us.
That's right.
To deal with. And it's got to be dealt with.
It's karma that has to be addressed. Let's put it in a way that's simple. If you don't address your karma, your trauma, it's going to come out in your relationships, and you're seeing it unfold on a global scale. And they can say what they want about people who insist on trying to bring this to the attention of the collective. But the fact is that it remains unaddressed and unhealed, therefore unintegrated. And we are walking towards a very sharp and steep cliff as a society. And until people wake up and start looking where they're going, there's going to be those of us who insist on talking about it, trying to wake people up before it's too late, because we just can't go. We can't go on the way we are. Society as a whole will end up enslaved. Most of us are already. Some of us, are free of the programming, but it has been because of dark nights, many dark nights of the soul that most of us who are free, and that's not. It's not a fun place to go. But when you want to purge yourself of the programming, you got to face yourself.
Well, in a meaningful life. I mean, meaningful life. Imagine that. I don't care about fun, and I don't care about happiness particularly. Not that I'm looking for depression, but I want a meaningful life. I want to serve humanity while I'm here. And I really don't understand people who don't care about other people, even if they're strangers.
Yeah.
Why don't we care? I don't really understand that.
That's the reptilian nature of this species. We have all kinds of DNA in us, and I think that it's the environment that signals the DNA, right? And so when people get in a certain situation, particularly situations that they love to put us in, which are survival states, then we become very selfish. It's very easy not to think about anyone else or care about anyone else when you're in a state of I got to look out for mine.
Yeah, but we've been comfortable, and we've been surrounded with convenience and comfort and money for years.
Yeah,
we're not in need. We haven't been in need, and yet we have persisted in not caring. No, I think it's programming. I think it's the beep 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 pulsing coming in.
Both, yeah.
That makes us not care about others, or just be narcissistic beyond belief. I don't know, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are many people who are, right, especially right now, are struggling and are far too concerned about how they're going to pay this month's rent and all the bills and get the kids where they need to be with food in their bellies. I think that is going on as well, sadly, in this country as well as other countries. But there's just it's so much, like you said. But I appreciate all your work, and I've just discovered it not very long ago. So I'm diving in, and I'm going to be passing it on through my work. And like you said, you affect one person, and that person affects more, and that's how we spread knowledge and power into society. Because knowledge is power, and awareness is one of the greatest currencies we can have these days to protect ourselves.
And I wanted people to know that the color edition, there's 60 color photos of the geoengineered transhumanism, is only available at the Rudolf Steiner bookstore in Seattle, Washington. Otherwise, you can go on Amazon or whatever, but you'll get black and white there. And I recommend people who are interested in how long we've been, like the MK Ultra period was my youth. Mm-hmm. So I wrote a series called Sub Rosa America, A Deep State History. It's a fictional base, but it's really a history of America since Kennedy's assassination, which, I had tea with Kennedy in the Rose Garden. It was a huge experience for me. Wow. And so I wrote those books and could not write fast enough, by the way, wow. to honor Kennedy, King and Kennedy, as the greatest blow to my 60s generation that we ever experienced. And so I recommend people to read it. It's quite a journey, and it has a cult following of maybe a few hundred people, because I've never really made an effort to sell it, because I've been in geoengineering. I've been worrying over this for the last 13 years. So I recommend that as well.
I'm going to read that one as well. And I appreciate your time. When you are done with your next book, I'd love to have you back on. By then, I will have made my way through the rest of your books, and we can have another conversation and see where we're at. But
okay.
I applaud you, and I appreciate you for all your work, Elana. We need people like you are what I think is going to make the difference if we're going to turn things around. So I'm very grateful for your time and for your knowledge. Everyone, check out Elana. I'm going to include links to Elana's website, which is fantastic. There's a lot of stuff on there. You'll find links to her books that are out and her work. And is there anywhere else people can go to find you if they want to keep up with you and what you're
on the ElanaFreeland.com website? You'll see my Proton Mail. I do read it. Sometimes it takes months because I get so much, but I do read it, and I do respond where I feel that I have something to say. And I give talks now and then, and I have social media, only Facebook, evil Facebook. They allow me one site now. They took down two. And then I have, and that's called EMF, planetary engineering. And then I have a gab.com one for a very different audience. And I put up, I post every day, and okay. I comment on many posts. It's how I do it. I know that okay. I could send them out to a special. I have a list of 1,000 people, but I just use that for email blasts when I want them to know something specific, so they don't get overwhelmed by too much mail.
Okay. My good friend, and he's my resident skeptic who I have a debate show with called Believers vs. Skeptics. We had an episode about fluoride. He said, if you get to it, just ask her what she thinks of fluoride. I'm just curious. And I'm like, I can tell you already what she thinks of.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think of fluoride?
Destroyer of intelligence.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And I don't know what happened to people that they allowed them to put the fluoride in the water, but the fluoride was left over from World War I might
I
add.
know. Waste. It was it's literally waste. Toxic
And the
waste.
toothpaste. I mean, that was the last time I was to a
God, you
certain
know,
dentist, is I argued with him about the fluoride in the toothpaste. And he was totally wrong. I hope he sees that now.
you know, and that another thing, ongoing court cases, they just keep delaying. They don't publish the findings. They don't want people to know. They don't ask
No,
permission, you know.
no.
Well, I'm glad I got to ask that. Alana, it's been real. I will definitely, we'll talk again. This was,
All right.
this
Thank
was
you,
great.
Faust.
I appreciate your
Yeah,
time. You take care and
wonderful.
good luck with everything.
Blessings.
Thank you to you too. Thank you.
Yeah.